Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, our special guest is Senate President Pro-Tem Greg Reed. Also, Governor Ivey starts her second term in office. And Attorney General Steve Marshall has a special message.
هذا الكتاب الأبيض فيه الحل سلاطين بعدين يا علي بس
I don't know what to say. Maybe it's better in the original Arabic. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and our special guest today is Senate President Pro-Tem Greg Reed. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Bill. Good to be with you, sir.
We are very, very fortunate to have you with us. I know your schedule is extremely busy. And the last 2 weeks have been just a marathon, it seems like. Before we get in, I'd like to get into this, but before we get into that, congratulations on being reelected President Pro-Tem. Your peers unanimously voted you in, and that has to be a real nice thing to have.
Well, it's a great privilege and a great honor for me serving as President Pro-Tem of the Alabama Senate. I've got great colleagues. I'm very excited about the work that will continue to be done by the Alabama Senate. Great men and women that are there for all the right reasons. So to be elected by that group to be their president is a privilege. So I'm excited about it.
Good, good. Well, we're excited to see what happens. You had an organizational meeting recently where you selected committee chairs and placed folks on committees and actually looked at the rules and how to better tailor the rules to the body. Could you give us an overview of what the organizational session was about and what you feel like you accomplished in that session?
Well, first thing that went on in the session as we came to the organizational session, which is constitutionally required for us to be able to organize ourselves at the beginning of a 4-year term or a quadrennium for action by the state Senate. First thing was the election of the President Pro Tem, also the election of the Secretary of the Senate, of which is Mr. Pat Harris, who works for the state Senate kind of as the managing official, the executive for all things that are going on within the body, staffing, so on and so forth. So that was happening as well. And then we moved through a process, as you alluded to, with committees. We'd already gone through a process where I went to all of the senators and asked them what their priorities were, what they wanted to do, where they wanted to serve, where they felt like that they could be offering the best to their districts, offering the best to the state of Alabama. So once I got all of that information, I went through individual phone calls with all of the members of the Senate to be able to discuss the detail of what their goals were and then be able to put them in a place of service, whether a chairman or vice chairman or ranking member, which we have minority ranking members that are on each of the committees as well, to make sure everybody had good places of service. You know, I told the members up front, this was not a goal of delight. It was a goal of satisfaction. Certainly, everybody wanted to be in certain places, and we had some members that had requests that were the same. So we had to go through a process of evaluating each of the chairs and the vice chairs for the 17 standing committees. It also included non-standing committees, which are committees that are established by statute or ongoing committees that have been established for research and different kinds of work and oversight that are the responsibility of the state Senate. So we worked on all that, as well as we worked on the rules. Two elements of rules. Number one are the joint rules, which govern the action of the legislative body as a whole. So those were approved by the House of Representatives as well as the Senate. And so we had to work those through, make sure that everybody was in agreement. And then the operational rules of the Senate body. So we understand exactly how things are going to operate on the floor. We got all that done in short order. We were in session for 2 days and had no conflict. Everybody understood what we were doing. We had done a lot of work prior to the session to make sure everyone understood what the goals were, what we were trying to do, and I'm very pleased with the outcomes.
It was a very efficient session. You know, you had 10 days, you got it done in a couple of days, so congratulations on that. I want to move on to, I know this is a big deal. There's close to $1 billion in federal relief funds under the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA. And so one of the first orders of business, I think, is that y'all are going to have to come together and figure out where that money goes and how you're going to allocate it. Could you tell us about that?
Well, that is very important, and this is round 2 of those ARPA funds that have come from the federal government related to recovery for states because of the coronavirus pandemic. And in the first round, we had resources that were able to be used under a specific category, a large portion of those resources, and it was used for revenue replacement, which gave the legislature a lot of latitude in being able to decide where those resources were going to be used. That's going to be different in the second round of the ARPA funds, in that all of this is governed by the Department of the Treasury, in that they're federal funds, and there are rules and regulations associated with how these monies can be spent. If they are spent in a way that is not in compliance with the rules and regulations from the Department of the Treasury, then the state's responsible for paying those funds back to the federal government. So we have to make sure that we understand exactly what is allowable. There's going to be more restriction on these funds coming up that we're going to work with on ARPA round 2, because there will be less of those revenue replacement funds. I think we'll see many of the topics that we've reviewed already that are very important for the use of these funds. Number one is hospitals, nursing homes, which of course have been on the front line related to coronavirus, have a lot of reimbursement still related to managing that process. That will be something important. We've spent a good bit of those resources on water and sewer projects, which is something very important to the legislature, that we spend these monies in a way that are going to allow them to be beneficial to the people of Alabama for years and years into the future. And looking at needs that we have in water and sewer projects affect quality of life, affect economic development, all kinds of things. So that's an important topic. Broadband is a huge issue, and has been and will continue to be in the years to come, connecting every element, every area of Alabama to the internet as best we can. And there's been monies used in round 1 for that. There'll be more money, in my opinion, that will be used for that moving forward in the ARPA funds to come as well. And there'll be other topics that can come up related to senior citizens. I think we're going to see some things related to how we can help with mental health related topics and issues that are allowable under the rules and regs from the Department of the Treasury. So it'll be a big task, and I think we'll get to that early in the legislative session that is going to be coming March 7th.
Well, do you mind sticking around for another segment? I'd like to talk to you about a few other things.
Sure, glad to.
All right. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. Our special guest is Alabama Senate President Pro-Tem Greg Reed. We'll be right back.
There seems to be a new wave of aggressive driving lately.
You see those people, they are the ones that are tailgating other people because they have to get to their destination now.
Weaving in and out of traffic, looks like they could care less about who's around them. There's no one else on the roadway. They're the only one there.
Aggressive driving can be the difference between life and death.
All because somebody thought they needed to be the front of the line and get there first.
Slow down. Don't be the reason that someone else doesn't go home tonight.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Our special guest today is Senate President Pro-Tem Greg Reed. Senator Reed, thank you for sticking around with us.
Yes, sir.
You know, it's a fact. We know this. For a state to prosper as a whole, there must be business, there must be industry, there must be jobs. Without business and industry, there are no jobs. Without jobs, people suffer. And Alabama has done a very good job over the last few years of putting out economic incentives that have attracted not only business from outside of the state, but has encouraged those inside the state to grow. I know this is one of the passions that you have, is that we offer incentives, that we find ways to grow business in Alabama. Can you tell us a little bit about what you anticipate for the session?
Well, the thing coming, Bill, is going to be the renewal of the Alabama Jobs Act. And you're right, I've been engaged in this for a number of years. I mean, the very first Alabama Jobs Act legislation I was responsible for in the Senate. Then we did the Growing Alabama Act, the AIM Act, and then 2.5 years ago, the renewal of all of those elements put into one renewal of the Jobs Act. And so now we're going to be in a place in the coming legislative session to renew those incentives again. And competing with Louisiana and Mississippi and North Carolina and Michigan, those are very important for the people of Alabama, as you said, in being able to grow jobs, which is something that is of paramount importance to the people of our state. We've done a great job. There's been fantastic success. You know, if you look over the last number of years, 10 or 15 years, there's been huge growth in areas of industrial manufacturing, different areas that these incentives are used in recruiting those businesses to come to Alabama. You know, Alabama's the third largest producer of automobiles in America, the fourth largest producer of airplanes in the world. I mean, we've had some great success, but this is an ongoing, constant opportunity for us in competing with other states. They're changing their incentives. They're trying to go after the same businesses that we're trying to go after through the Alabama Department of Commerce in attracting those industries to come and locate, spend their millions and hundreds of millions, many times, of investment in Alabama rather than going somewhere else. So making sure that these incentives are appropriate, that we're getting a good return on the incentives, and that they are a useful tool for the Department of Commerce in attracting industry, manufacturing, job growth is a must. And so we will see that as a priority moving into the next legislative session.
Well, and I don't, you know, you do and I do. We talk to business leaders. We talk to folks that are looking to help Alabama grow. And this is a huge priority for existing businesses that are here. And we can't prosper as a state unless we have people investing in our state, bringing jobs and bringing new lifeblood into our system. So I think that's an important area, and we look forward to seeing how this plays out and any way we can assist in telling that story. I want to get to something. Oh, thank you. I want to get to something here that's a little bit more controversial, and we don't have to make it controversial, but over the last 2 sessions, there was a comprehensive gaming bill that came out of the Senate. It failed in both times in the House. I know this is not an issue that you're for, at least from your votes, but if you look at it from a couple of stances, one is that we have gaming in Alabama. We need to, in my opinion, legalize it, tax it, regulate it, and be done with all the nonsense. On the other hand, we need to also see that, according to studies from reputable folks, that will bring around 10,000 jobs to Alabama, or new jobs to Alabama. It will also bring in between $700 and $1 billion annually for the state. Now, I am not a gambler, and I'm not, and I see all the moral and ethical reasons we don't want it, but we have it. So do you see anything coming forward in the legislation this time? I mean, Governor Ivey said that, you know, one of her biggest regrets is that in 2022 it did not pass.
Well, I think it's an ongoing topic. The whole time I've been in the legislature, we've had some level of gaming legislation before us every year. And whether it's a lottery or whether it's a more comprehensive program for the regulation of gaming, I agree with you, Bill. This issue is one that we need to find a solution to. There's a lot of stakeholders, of course. There are many that are interested. But the bottom line for me is we have gaming in the state. We have gaming that is with the Poach Creek Indians, of which they are recognized federally and are covered by different regulatory details from the federal government. We also have different constitutional amendments in individual counties over the years that have allowed for different types of gaming in those particular counties, whether it's parimutuel, dogs, horses, or electronic bingo and the like. Also, we've got a lot of illegal operations that are in other counties that don't have those constitutional amendments, but they're operating, and you wind up with a big challenge overall with this topic in that there is no cap, there's no regulation, there's no regulatory authority, and there's no collection. The state of Alabama, the citizenry of our state, to your point, we have these operations happening, but the state gets no benefit from these. As a matter of fact,
Right.
It is costly to the state in that we wind up in a place of having to manage a lot of the results, negative results that could come from some of these operations, but the state gets no revenue as a result of the situation that we're in. I have voted positively for the comprehensive legislation in the Senate. Tried to manage through that as best we could. And to your point, it passed in the Senate. It did not pass in the House of Representatives. I think once again, there will be more discussion related to the gaming topic as we move into this legislative session. You know, the topic of a state lottery, I've looked at the polling numbers, analyzing the attitude of the people of Alabama. Those numbers are extremely high. You know, 70 some odd percentile of the people of Alabama want there to be a state lottery.
Right.
Whether they play the lottery or not, the idea that it would be a regulated program allowing for benefit from the use of those funds for the people of Alabama is something that whether people are interested in gambling or not, are interested in regulatory controls and the opportunity that there would be appropriate tax collected on these operations. So, to your point, I think it's an issue that needs to continue to be addressed. I think we will see legislation coming in the legislative session starting March 7th that will once again be looking at a comprehensive thought on how we deal with this topic.
Well, thank you for addressing that for our viewers. And thank you for joining us today. You are always welcome, and we appreciate your leadership. And all the best to you, sir.
Bill, thank you so much. Tell Susan I said hello, and you guys have a great week.
All right, thank you. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. Our special guest today has been Senate President Pro-Tem Greg Reed. We'll be right back.
Throughout my career, I've seen many crashes, and a lot of the fatalities are from people who haven't worn their seatbelt.
Cars have rolled over multiple times.
I've had people end up in lakes, ravines. I've been looking for people in the woods for a couple hours before.
Usually just about every bone in their body is broken, their organs have ruptured, and typically they die.
You want to save a life, just simply click a button and put that seatbelt on.
Seatbelts really do save lives.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly
Lights out.
and put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. I'm joined by Susan Britt and Josh Moon. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Hey, guys. Just wanted to mention I'm very happy this week. Very happy.
All right. Well, we're very glad. Hey, we got, we don't have a whole lot of time here, but I want to get to a few things. At the inauguration, Attorney General Steve Marshall, now I could not get this in the original Latin, his speech, or the original Arabic either. Yeah. But Josh, he sounded like a guy who was just angry and just so unhappy that the world is not closer to sort of the Taliban than it is, today. He really wants to change Alabama.
Yeah, there was like Roman soldier references, and it was just, it was just not really the hopeful, bright, sunshiny sort of, future that you might hope for, especially on an inauguration day. It kind of, it reminded me a little bit of that Trump speech, that was, the dark undertones of the Trump speech at his inauguration, and how people were very critical of that and the way that he kind of framed the country and framed the outlook.
Yeah.
Well, he referred to the Triarii as legion of the Roman, one of the Roman legions, and in a way that really didn't suit what he was trying to talk about. But my favorite was twice he broke into Latin.
He did. Twice he broke into Latin. But he referred to this last line of defense. Mm-hmm. And then he claimed that he and conservative attorney generals were the last line of defense for our states. What he forgot to mention is that the Roman legions were never a defensive outfit. The Roman legions just were, they attacked. They took over countries. Mm-hmm. They enslaved the population. They killed the men. And the only reason they did it is so they could change the culture and politics of that country. Mm-hmm. Ask the Carthaginians what happened down there. Not a very good look.
Well, listen, if he's looking to be the last line of defense, there are a lot of people in this state that need defending. There were a bunch of kids that were being put to work in factories very near to his office there. There are a number of people who are being screwed every day in this by businesses and con artists and things like that, that I've never seemed to get a lot of press releases on. I get a lot about Joe Biden and fighting the Biden agenda, but I don't get a lot from press releases from his office about fighting for those people that really need to be defended.
No, he doesn't. I mean, this guy is running for, governor, and he thinks that this is the way to do it. I will say, Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth, he was very optimistic. He talked a lot about the future. Mm-hmm. He talked about jobs. He talked about a better tomorrow for all of Alabamians.
Yes, it was a very uplifting speech, and he talked, like Bill said, about the future and what we can accomplish in this state.
Yeah, I think that's what people want to hear out of the inauguration speech. They want to hear, what you're going to do to make their lives better, not all the ways that things are terrible. And oh my God, here's this fear you should carry with you to work every day.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I talked to several old school politicos who said, if you look at the various speeches, Ainsworth and Governor Ivey, which we'll get to in a second, were very positive. There were a few things that pandered to the base, but in general very positive and uplifting. But there's so many of them were political. They were shocked that they took on that political tone. Mm-hmm. But I think and there's no doubt that Lieutenant Governor Ainsworth wants to be governor one day. But
he's busy doing his current job right now, and he knows that very well.
And the Governor Ivey, I thought she looked good during the her inauguration. She seemed strong. She spoke, Josh, about education, and that was #1 priority. And then after that, she said, and this I found interesting, productive and meaningful criminal justice reform. Both those are huge deals in our state, but we don't hear a lot about productive and meaningful criminal justice reform.
No, you know, and I think that criminal justice reform means different things to different people. But at this particular point in time, criminal justice reform for us can probably only mean a positive change for humans. You know, right. I mean, because we're scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of cruelty right now towards the people who are incarcerated in our prison system. And so I hope that, given that she's not going to be elected to any other office, okay, maybe going forward here, we can focus on the people who are currently suffering. Focus on those people.
Right. Well, and Susan, as far as education goes, I mean, it is important. There was mention of these school choice, and as Josh would say, there's a lot of hokey pokey in school choice that doesn't make any sense for the state of Alabama.
There is a whole lot of hokey pokey, and we've watched it over the years, and it just morphs in a different way. But now, on a positive note, just after her speech, she went back and did four or more executive orders specific to education. So she's already moving the ball forward with the education. And I hope we can, if we're going to talk about school choice, we can talk about it in such a way that it's a good thing for the state and not with everybody with their fingers in the pie.
But Josh, we have pretty, maybe 10%, at the most 5% of the schools in Alabama are failing. And really, why aren't we concentrating on those instead of trying to figure out a way to give Mountain Brook schools more money or private schools more money? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it doesn't, and I don't think I said hokey pokey was involved in school choice. I said BS was involved in it.
BS.
You know,
because listen, if you want to do school choice, I'm all for true school choice. If you want to give these kids an option to go to whatever school they want to go to and provide transportation for them to go there, then I'm all for it. I'll back you every single time. I'll help run your campaign, okay? But they don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to punish predominantly black schools out there that are poor and in very poor areas, and you want to call them failing, and you want to provide white people the opportunity to flight themselves out of those schools. And that's what's been done historically in the past, and you've left the failing schools failing even more because you've removed the resources from them. Stop doing that.
All right, well, that's going to have to be the last word, except when I looked on the stage of the diocese during the inauguration, it was a very white gathering.
Didn't want to bring that up, but you're right.
Anyway, welcome to Alabama. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.